Hello students, as per your request, I'm gonna solve this question number 6 from exercise 10a, right? So what does this question say? First it says that in the figure, ABC is a straight line, ABC, A, B and C. This one is a straight line. Given that what we are given is ADB, angle AD and B, this one angle equals BDC, BD and C. So this one angle, so these two angles are equal. This is what we are given. So what we have to do is find BDC, angle BDC. BDC is BD and C, this one angle, and CBD, angle CB and D. So this one angle. What we have to do is find these two angles. And another data that we are given is 20 degree. Angle BCD equals 20 degree and angle BAD equals 90 degree. So this mark donates this shows that this angle is 90 degree, right? So I have written this data on a blank page. So I have same drawn the triangle here, right? So now let me explain to you first that we are given that this angle and this angle, these both angles are equal, right? So in case if I say that this whole angle I do not divide it, like here we have divided these two angles, right? This whole angle in the above data is divided into two parts. A line is drawn in between and that divides this angle into two parts like this one, right? So suppose if this angle is 60 degree, right? So what will be the value of these two angles? 30 and 30 degree, right? Because the data says that this line has divided two angle into two equal parts, right? These two angles will be equal. So if it's 60 degree, these two angles will be 30 and 30. If this angle is 100 degree, these two angles will be 50 and 50. If this angle is 80 degree, these two angles will be 40 and 40 degree, right? So this means that if we find this angle, right, then we will be able to find these both angles. What we will do is, if we find this angle, right, then we will just divide this angle, the value of this angle, by 2. We'll find the value of half of it, and we know the half of this angle will equal the half of total, and this angle will equal half of total, like this one, right? This is 60 degree and half of it is 30 degree, so this angle equals 30 degree. So first we will find this angle. Now the second part says that if we find this angle, angle B, D and C, then tell us what will be the value of DBC, right? This one angle. So we'll find it later. So first let's move on to the first question, the first part of the question, right? So what we will do is we will just erase this line. We will think of it, it doesn't exist, and we will draw whole angle, right? We don't divide it into equal two parts. So now in this triangle, angle DAC equals 90 degree, right? And DCA equals 20 degree. So as I told you that if you remember the laws, memorize the laws, it will be easy for you to solve the question, right? So I'll write solution here. So now we will say we know the rule, and rule is sum of all angles inside a triangle equals 180 degree, right? So I'll write it angle, and this one angle C, you can start from anywhere, CAD. So angle CAD plus angle ADC, angle ADC plus angle ACD, right? So plus angle ACD equals 180 degree. The reason is sum of all angles inside a triangle equals 180 degree. Sum of all angles inside a triangle equals 180 degree, right? Right. So now we know the value of two angles, right? Which one? CAD and ACD, right? So I'll put the value of CAD. So value of angle CAD is 90 degree, right? So we have written for CAD here. I have written the value of it instead of writing CAD, plus angle ADC. Angle ADC, this is what we have to find, so we don't know the value, so we write exactly it is as it is angle ADC plus, now we know the value of angle ACD, so I'll write its value angle ACD. So its value equals 20 degree, so which will equal 180 degree. So now I'll write angle ADC, I'll sum these both, so 90 and plus 20 equals 110, right? So plus 110 degree equals 180 degree, right? So now angle ADC equals, so here it's 110 is in positive, right? And if I move this 110 to another side of equation, it will become negative, right? So 180 degree minus 110 degree. So if you subtract 180 degree, sorry, 110 degree from 180 degree, it will equal 70 degree. So this is the value of angle ADC. So this value of angle ADC is 70 degree. So now again, let's get back to the question. The question says that these two angles are equal, right? So it means the whole angle, right? If it's a whole angle, then it will be divided into two equal parts. So this one is an equal part, this one is equal to this one. So we have found that value of this angle is 70 degree. So if we divide into two equal parts, it will equal 35 degree exactly. So we'll write in mathematics like this: angle, right, what's this angle BDC equals, right, angle BDC equals angle ADC divided by 2. So the reason is that's the data we are given, right? So that's we are given in data, your question, right? So now angle BDC equals value of angle ADC is 70 degree, right? So 70 degree divided by 2. So angle BDC equals 35 degree, right? So we have found the value of angle BDC. We have solved the first part of the question, right? So now moving on to the next part of question. Now I have drawn the same triangle here. I have just written the value of this angle that we have found just now, right? So the value, we know the value of this angle, that is 35 degree. We know the value of this angle, that is 20 degree. Now the question says you have to find the value of this angle. Now if we think of it like this, that this is another triangle inside a triangle. Triangle is CBD, right? This triangle, we'll write it like this: triangle CBD, right? So this triangle has two angles, 35 degree and 20 degree, and one is unknown angle. So if you think of it like this, then we have the same rule that I told you. We'll use the same rule, and that is sum of all angles inside a triangle equals 180 degree. So here we have a triangle, right? So sum of all angles inside this triangle will also equal 35 degree, right? So we'll use this law. We will say, now what are the angles? CBD, all right, angle CBD plus angle D, angle BDC, right, plus angle BDC plus angle BCD, right, and that is angle BCD, that will equal 180 degree, right? So now I have written the law, that is sum of all angles inside a triangle. Sum of all angles inside a triangle equals 180 degree. Triangle equals, right. So now listen, that's what I'm going to tell you is that whatever you do in a mathematics, you have to mention that why did you do so, right? Like I added these three angles and I told you that this equals 180 degree, but I have to mention that why this equals 180 degree, the reason, and reason is sum of all angles inside a triangle equals 180 degree, that's a law, right? So I then mentioned the reason and then solved this equation and found the value of 70 degree, right? Then after that I wrote angle BDC equals angle ADC divided by 2. then again I have to mention the reason that why. Because if you solve this question and a new person comes to you and he reads your paper, right, whatever you have done, then he won't know if you don't mention the reason that why did he do so. He will get confused, right? So what you have to do is mention the reason whatever you do. So the reason is because this angle equals half of it, because we are given it in data. The data says that angle BDC is a half of angle ADC, right? So now moving on to the next thing, right? Again, I've I made a new triangle, right? We were given a whole triangle and it was divided into two parts. So I thought of this thing as a new triangle, right? So now again, then I wrote the combination of angles, that this angle plus this one and this one equals 180 degree, and then again I mentioned the reason that sum of all angles inside a triangle equal 180 degree. So now moving on, we know the value of angle BCD and BDC, right? But we don't know the value of angle CBD. That is what we have to find out. So I'll write angle CBD same as it is, right? And now BDC, the value of angle B, D and C equals 35 degree. So I'll write 35 degree instead of writing BDC, plus angle BCD. So angle BC and D, that is 20 degree. So plus 20 degree, right? And this will equal 180 degree, right? So now moving on, angle CBD plus 35 and plus 20 equals, it's 55, right? Equals 180 degree. So now here 55 is in positive. So if we take this 55 to another side of equation, it becomes negative. So angle CB and CBD equals 180 degree minus 55 degree. So if you subtract 55 degree from 180 degree, it will equal 125 degree, right? So now we know the value of this one angle, it's 125 degree. So this is how we prove in mathematics, right? If you mention anything, just mention why did you do that, why did you write that, right? If there is any law behind it, if there is any rule or whatsoever, mention that, then solve the equation. Now another thing that I want to tell you is that whenever I give you any question, right, think of the laws that can be applied to that, to find that, right? So like I applied a law here, like take an example. It told this question told us that these two angles are equal. So it means this line divides the whole angle into two equal parts. So now the whole angle, right? Now think of it like this: we are given this angle and this angle, right? And sum of all angles inside the triangle equals 180 degree, right? So if we know the value of two angles with this last states sum of all angles inside a triangle equals 180 degree. So if we know the value of any two angles, we'll find the third one, right, by using the law. So these are the two angles and this one is a whole angle, right? So we can find the value of this whole angle, right, with the law. And then the data says these two angles are equal. So if we divide this whole angle into two parts, two equal parts, then we'll know the value of another angle, right? And then after that we solve the first question, and after that, right, this is 35, this is 20 degree. Now if we look at this triangle, what we will find that this one triangle, the whole triangle that we earlier used, this one, right, is divided into two triangles, right? So we don't have to do anything to this triangle. Why? Because we don't have to find the value of it. So we have to find the value of this angle. So we will think of this thing as another triangle. And if this is a triangle, then law comes in, what? Sum of all angles inside the triangle equals 180 degree. So that's what we have to use. We are given two angles, 20 and 35. We'll find third one, right? So inside a triangle, if we are given any two angles, we'll use law. What is that law? Sum of all angles inside the triangle equals 180 degree, right? So this is how we solve the first question.